The second line of defense, this is again the innate immunity. Innate meaning that it doesn't care what you are as long as you're foreign, you're gone. These ones are actually on the inside. These are the ones that, hey, the bacteria has gotten in, what are we going to do? It's gotten into our tissue a little bit. Maybe it's in our lymphatic system a little bit. What are we going to do to prevent them from doing any good whatsoever, any progress for themselves within us? Well, we got into some antimicrobial substances like interferons, complement, iron-binding proteins, that one should sound familiar, and antimicrobial proteins. We also got cells that like to fight, such as natural killer cells, phagocytes, and then we got some processes that really fight well, the inflammation and fever. And those are what we're going to cover in a lot more detail. Inflammation, I think we're going to actually make another video because it's quite complicated. So antimicrobial substances, starting off with the interferons. This is the stuff, if we were to just say what ingest it does is, if a cell gets sick, it's going to send out this interferon saying, hey, y'all, the virus has got me. I'm going to get zombified soon. And, well, you guys got to stop. You can't replicate because you all might be sick too. And if you replicate, you're just going to spread more. Viruses like DNA. They need DNA to be replicated. We got to stop. This interferon also tells other things around it to kill it. That this cell that's producing this interferon needs to die so that the virus inside of it can hopefully be grabbed and destroyed as well. Iron binding, again, but for a different reason. Like you, many bacteria need iron to grow. So hopefully remember transferrin, ferritin, and hemoglobin. Transferrin is the stuff that transfers free iron around to get it to the right places. Ferritin ferrets it away, like in the liver and the spleen. And then there's the hemoglobin where it's actually being used functionally. The one you might not know is lactoferrin. If we break that word apart, ferrin again is iron. Lacto, that might sound like the sugar lactose. Lactose is found in milk. So lactoferrin is also found in milk, and it's binding that iron. In breast milk, that's exactly what it's doing. It's making certain that that iron isn't so readily available to the bacteria that may or may not want it, or that may want it. We also got a system called the complement system. Now, this isn't something like, oh, you look gorgeous. Oh, you look amazing type of thing. This is more of a making certain things don't do well. So there's little proteins floating around in your plasma that are called complement proteins. There's a lot of them. I believe there's at least 11 or 12. Shoot me if I'm wrong. Hopefully you will. Anyways, if they come across something that they really don't think should be there, they're going to activate. And how they activate is this C3 is one way it can activate. The C3 gets cleaved into two, and these two parts do two absolutely different things. C3b, you don't need to know C3b, C3. You don't need to know these bits and pieces. You just need to know what complement does, what it activates. But this piece of this C3 comes along and stimulates phagocytosis. Phagocytosis, hopefully you remember, means om nom nom, eat them up, yum yum, eat them up. These cells coming in and eating things. So C3, this portion of C3, C3b, will tell macrophages, hey, we got a smorgasbord here. Let's eat some. Come get it. And how they do it is they bind onto microbes. These C3b binds onto microbes and says, hey, we're the sprinkles on this donut. Come and eat it. And those sprinkles on that donut really, really entice them to really go after those microbes. C3a and another protein that can activate can also go to interact with something called a mast cell, which likes to produce histamine. Histamine you probably know often frequently from antihistamines and things like that. Histamines sure do like causing allergies and inflammation. Primarily inflammation, which is the one that can cause some pretty bad things if it gets out of control. But inflammation in and of itself is pretty good. We'll talk about that here in a little while. The third thing that it can do is cause cytolysis. This is the one where it takes a bunch of all these little products all together, the C7, C8, C9, C6, and C5b. You don't need to know what makes up this channel. You don't need to know what causes this. Just know that complement activates these three. Just as a reminder again, these guys all combine together into a cell that says, hey, I'm sick, or hey, this is a microbe. We need to get rid of it. And it forms a channel. And that channel allows the contents inside that cell to come out. You may remember that the cell really needs that balance, to have that diffusion not happen under its control. This thing pretty much says, no. We're going to release everything that you have inside of you. And that's called cytolysis, is when you pop a cell. And that's what complement can do. So complement can do induce phagocytosis, induce inflammation, and a part of that system can also cause cytolysis. We did mention phagocytosis. This is a picture of phagocyte going, donut, nom, nom, nom. It's eating it. And this is really what happens. The cell forms a vesicle called a phagosome, an eating some, and binds it with digestive enzymes that are in the lysosome. If you remember, cytolysis means break. A lysosome is something that contains stuff that breaks things. Binding it together with this microbe completely destroys it, and then the phagocyte can do a couple of things with it, which we will discuss in a little while in the adaptive immunity. We also got natural killer cells. Natural killer cells live up to their name. They go around looking for things. And they look for things that, like infected human cells or foreign cells, go, and you know what? You need to die. And it'll stab it, or it will release certain things that will cause it, well, I shouldn't say stab it. That's getting a little, it will release certain chemicals that'll say, hey, kill yourself. And the thing goes, okay, I'll do it. And it pops. You're going to activate the interferons. If you remember interferons, that's the thing that says, hey, I'm sick, kill me. It could be activated by macrophages. Macrophages can say, hey, I got this thing floating around, why don't you come help me? And it also can be activated by infected cells. One drawback is that it can be activated by foreign tissue, such as transplants. So this is the main reason why you have a transplant rejection. These natural killer cells are looking around, checking your ID, and if your ID is just a tiny bit ski-wampus, it's very likely that this natural killer cell is going to stab it and make it die. And that's when you get transplant rejection. Now, inflammation is quite a bit of detailed information, so I'm going to go ahead and create its own little video. Let's go ahead and enjoy yourself the end of this video.